First contact protocol violation. The persistent alarm on the bridge of the Galactic Confederation vessel Arbiter had been wailing for 17 minutes. Commander Xorlek's skin shifted through a spectrum of blues as agitation coursed through his system. His second-in-command, Officer Tevra, recalibrated the sensors for the third time. Confirmation verified. Commander, unknown vessel has penetrated the veil. Classification matches no known signatures in our database. Xorlek's four eyes blinked in rapid succession. Impossible. The Veil Nebula's radiation would tear apart any ship without our shielding technology. The vessel appears to be primitive, sir. Analyzing now. Tevra's tendrils danced across the holographic interface. Propulsion system based on antimatter reaction. Hull composed of titanium alloys and carbon composites. Weaponry minimal. Life support systems indicate. She paused, her expression shifting to one Xorlek recognized as profound confusion. What is it, officer? Sir, life signs indicate. Humans. The bridge fell silent. Humans, the newest species in the galactic community, barely 50 years into interstellar travel. Their admission to the Confederation had been controversial. Many argued they weren't ready. Too impulsive, too aggressive, too unpredictable. Open communications, Xorlek ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a human female. Dark skin, short cropped hair, expression stern but composed. This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earth Science vessel Pathfinder. We are on a sanctioned exploration mission. Xorlek leaned forward. Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Your sanctioned mission holds no authority here. The Veil Nebula is forbidden to all species under Confederation Treaty 7829. The human captain's expression didn't change. We received no warning buoys, no automated messages. Our charts show this as unclaimed territory. Impossible. Xorlek replied. The Veil has been restricted for over 3,000 years. Every species is made aware upon joining the Confederation. A male human joined the captain on screen, older, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that spoke of academic curiosity. Commander, I'm Dr. Alexander Volkov, lead scientist. We detected unusual energy signatures emanating from within the nebula. Signatures that match artifacts we discovered on Mars 3 months ago. Xorlek felt his skin darken involuntarily. Mars artifacts. The Confederation had no record of precursor technology in the Sol system. Transmit your data immediately, he ordered. The exchange took mere seconds. What followed was several minutes of stunned silence as Xorlek and his science officers reviewed the information. This is troubling, Tevra finally said. These artifacts predate Confederation records. Dr. Volkov nodded. Precisely. Carbon dating puts them at approximately 12 million years old. They activated spontaneously 3 months ago, transmitting coordinates leading year. Xorlek studied the humans carefully. Primitive or not, they had managed to do what no Confederation species had accomplished in millennia. Penetrate the veil without disintegrating. His orders were absolute. No entry was permitted. But the situation had evolved beyond standard protocols. Captain Chen, your presence here violates our most sacred restriction. However, he paused, these circumstances are unprecedented. I am obligated to escort you to Confederation headquarters for diplomatic resolution. Captain Chen shook her head. With respect, Commander, we can't leave. Since entering the nebula, our systems have detected something following us. Something massive. Xorlek's skin paled. Explain. Unknown composition, but it's absorbing all electromagnetic radiation around it. A void in space, Chen replied. And it's accelerating. Before Xorlek could respond, the Arbiter's sensors blared with new alerts. Commander, Tevra's voice rose in alarm. Massive energy surged from within the nebula. Something's coming through. The view screen shifted to show a tear in space itself, a wound in reality that pulsed with unknowable energies. From within emerged a vessel that defied comprehension. crystalline structures flowing like liquid, geometries that hurt the eye to observe. "Ancestors preserve us," whispered Sorlak. "The prohibited have returned." The crystalline vessel moved with impossible speed, positioning itself between the Pathfinder and the approaching void. A beam of coherent energy lanced from the alien ship directly into the darkness. Where it struck, space itself seemed to scream. "All vessels, retreat immediately," came a voice in perfect Confederation standard from the crystalline ship. "The Harbinger approaches. The human vessel must be protected at all costs." "Who are you?" demanded Captain Chen. "We are the Watchers," the voice replied. "Guardians of the Cedar's final protocol. Your species was not meant to find us yet, but the timeline has accelerated. The Void Hunters and humanity is the only weapon that remains." Another alarm sounded on the Arbiter's bridge. The void was expanding, consuming the energy beams as if they were nothing. "Human vessel," Sorlak said urgently, "we must retreat to Confederation space immediately. Whatever game is being played here, we cannot." "It's no game, Commander," Dr. Volkov interrupted. "Look at your sensor readings. The void is generating gravity waves that will tear this sector apart within hours. Your Confederation is in danger whether you acknowledge it or not." Tevra confirmed the readings with growing horror. "He's right, Commander. This phenomenon will reach populated systems within days." Sorlak made his decision. "Captain Chen, we will escort you to safety. This matter requires full Confederation attention." "Negative, Commander," Chen replied firmly. "The Watchers call us a weapon. We need to understand why. My crew signed up to explore the unknown, to face the dangers so others don't have to. That's what humans do." The Pathfinder accelerated toward the crystalline vessel, ignoring Sorlak's protests. As it approached, the Watcher ship extended what appeared to be a docking mechanism. "Commander Sorlak," Captain Chen said, her face resolute on the view screen. "Return to the Confederation. Tell them what you've seen. And tell them that if we don't make it back, Earth needs to be ready." The transmission cut. Sorlak watched as the human vessel docked with the crystalline ship, both now turning to face the expanding void. "Your orders, Commander," Tevra asked quietly. Sorlak stared at the scene before him. A primitive human vessel joined with ancient forbidden technology, standing against a threat his people had hidden from for millennia. "Contact Confederation High Command," he said finally. "Priority Alpha. And prepare a full report on human physiology, psychology, and capabilities." "Sir." Sorlak's skin shifted to a determined hue. "If we survive this, Officer Tevra, I believe our understanding of our place in the galaxy is about to change profoundly." Behind them, the void continued to grow, and the battle for survival began. The pursuit of truth. Admiral Zora Kane of the Earth Fleet crushed the report in her fist, her knuckles white with fury. 3 weeks. The Pathfinder has been missing for 3 weeks, and you're only informing us now. Ambassador Sorlak, promoted after his encounter at the Vale, maintained his composure despite the humans' obvious rage. The Confederation diplomatic chamber was designed to intimidate, with its soaring ceilings and ancient symbols of power etched into living stone. But this human showed no sign of being cowed. The situation required careful analysis before. Careful analysis. Kane slammed her palm on the table. 27 Earth citizens disappeared inside your restricted zone, and you chose to withhold that information while you analyzed. That is an act of war, Ambassador. High Counselor Vexalia raised a slender hand, her crystalline skin catching the light. "Admiral Kane, please understand our position. The Vale Nebula has been restricted for reasons of galactic security. What your vessel encountered there has been suppressed from general knowledge for millennia." "The Watchers," Kane said. "And this void entity they're fighting. My government demands full disclosure immediately." Vexalia exchanged glances with the 13 other council members. A silent communication passed between them, one of the advantages of evolved psychic abilities that humans lacked. Finally, she nodded. 3 billion years ago, the galaxy was ruled by beings we call the Seeders. Their technology and understanding of the universe exceeded our comprehension even now. They encountered an entity, or perhaps created one, that existed in the spaces between dimensions. We know it only as the void. The void consumes, continued another counselor, a gaseous being contained within an environmental suit. Not merely matter and energy, but consciousness itself. The Seeders fought and lost, but in their final act, they created the Watchers, guardians programmed to contain the void until a permanent solution could be found. Admiral Kane's expression hardened. And how exactly do humans factor into this ancient war? The council chamber fell silent. Tell her, Sorlak said suddenly. She deserves to know why her people are being hunted. Vexalia's crystalline features registered surprise, but she nodded slowly. The Seeders' final solution was biological. They selected several primitive species across the galaxy and modified them at the genetic level. Special neural patterns, unique cognitive architectures, traits that would, over millions of years of evolution, produce beings capable of perceiving and affecting the dimensional barriers the void exploits. Understanding dawned on Kane's face. Humans, you're saying we were engineered as weapons. One of several species, Vexalia corrected. Most failed. They evolved along different paths or destroyed themselves before reaching the necessary development stage. The Confederation has monitored the remaining candidates for thousands of years. The restricted zones, Kane realized. They're not keeping things out. They're keeping you away from evidence of our origins. The Confederation was formed with one primary directive, Sorlak admitted, to ensure the Seeders' plan succeeded by preserving the candidate species until they were ready. Your Mars artifacts should never have activated. The timeline was meant to be controlled. Admiral Kane laughed bitterly. Controlled? You mean you intended to reveal our purpose to us only when it suited you? When we were sufficiently obedient? When you were sufficiently prepared, Vexalia corrected. But events have accelerated. The void has begun to awaken fully, breaking through its containment. The Watchers are failing. And now, they have taken your vessel, presumably to determine if humans have developed the capabilities they were designed for. So what happens now? Kane demanded. A new voice answered, harsh, mechanical, echoing through the chamber without apparent source. Now we fight, or we perish. The air in the center of the chamber shimmered, and a holographic figure appeared, Captain Maya Chen, but transformed. Her eyes glowed with inner light, her skin traced with patterns that seemed to shift between dimensions. Captain Chen, Kane whispered. What remains of her? The figure answered. The integration was difficult. Several of my crew did not survive. The others are still adapting. Vexalia rose, alarmed. A Watcher consciousness in a human form. This is forbidden. Necessity overrides prohibition. Counselor, Chen replied. The void has breached primary containment. My ship detected its echo on Mars, which activated the beacons. We followed them, as we were designed to do. Now the final phase must begin. What final phase? Sorlak asked. Ken turned her luminous gaze to Admiral Kane. The awakening of humanity's true potential. The Seeders created humans with dormant abilities, the capacity to perceive and manipulate the dimensional barriers that the void exploits. Those capabilities must now be activated in all of humanity, or the galaxy falls. The Council erupted in protests. Impossible. Too dangerous. They could become worse than the void itself. Kane ignored them, focusing on Chen. What happened to you, Captain? What did they do to your crew? They completed us, Chen replied. Dr. Volkov, and the others who survived. We're what humans were always meant to become. But there was a cost. She gestured, and the hologram expanded to show the crystalline Watcher ship, now fused with the Pathfinder in a hybrid vessel of impossible design. And we had a traitor. The image shifted to show a human man in Confederation uniform. speaking urgently with several high counselors in what appeared to be a secure facility. Julian West, Kane identified him. Earth intelligence. He went missing 6 months ago. He works for a faction within your confederation, Chen said, addressing the council. Those who believe the void can be controlled, harnessed as a weapon. They've been experimenting with it for centuries. Vexalia's crystalline form darkened with what appeared to be shame. The pragmatists, a minority view within the council, but influential. They've accelerated the void's awakening, Chen continued. And now it hunts us specifically. The Watchers can no longer contain it alone. Humanity must fulfill its purpose. Thorlak stepped forward. What do you propose, Captain? A choice, Chen replied. The Confederation can stand with humanity, help us awaken safely, and face the void together, or we will do it alone, with only the Watchers as allies. That's not a choice, Vexalia protested. Awakened humans would destabilize the entire galactic order. Your species is barely civilized, as it is, impulsive, aggressive, dangerous. With the powers of the Cedars, with respect, Counselor, Kane interrupted, you lost the right to make that judgment when you decided to hide the truth from us. Captain Chen, what do you need from Earth? Volunteers, Chen answered. 1,000 to start. Those with the strongest genetic markers. The process is dangerous, but necessary. And if we refuse? Asked one of the counselors. Chen's holographic form began to fade. Then pray to whatever gods you worship that the void consumed your worlds quickly. There are far worse fates waiting in the darkness between dimensions. As the hologram disappeared, the council chamber erupted into chaos. Admiral Kane turned to Thorlak. I need a ship. Now. Where are you going? He asked. To find the Pathfinder, she answered, and to make sure humanity's awakening doesn't turn us into something worse than what we're fighting. Thorlak studied her for a moment, then nodded. I'm coming with you. Why would you help us? Kane asked suspiciously. Because in 3,000 years of serving the Confederation, Thorlak replied, I've learned one thing with certainty. Bureaucracy moves too slowly for survival. The Council will debate while worlds die. And humans. Thorlak's skin shifted to a hue Kane hadn't seen before. Humans act. Sometimes foolishly, often brilliantly, but always decisively. Right now, Admiral, that may be the only advantage we have. Humanity's hidden potential. The dimensional rift tore open like a wound in reality, spilling impossible colors across the void of space. From within emerged the hybrid vessel, part Earth science ship, part ancient Watcher technology, its hull flowing like quicksilver as it adapted to normal space. Transition complete, announced Dr. Volkov, his voice carrying harmonic undertones that hadn't been there before the integration. The Earth fleet approaches, Captain. Maya Chen stood on what had once been the Pathfinder's bridge, now transformed into something that defied human engineering. The displays around her showed not screens but windows into reality itself, layers of existence peeled back like an onion. How many ships? She asked. 7, Volkov replied, including a Confederation cruiser. Admiral Kane leads them. Chen nodded. After 3 months of preparation, it was time. The remaining 15 members of her original crew moved about the bridge with practiced efficiency, their bodies subtly altered by the Watcher integration. None remained fully human, but neither had they become something else entirely. They existed in between, pioneers on the frontier of human evolution. The void, she asked. Lieutenant Santos, once their tactical officer, now something more, gestured to a display showing the darkness spreading across a sector 2 systems away. It's consuming faster now. 3 inhabited worlds evacuated in the past week. The Confederation is in full retreat from the affected sectors. And our passengers. The 1,000 volunteers are ready, Volkov confirmed. The genetic compatibility is higher than expected. 97% show markers for successful integration. The ship shuddered slightly as they dropped out of dimensional slit space near Saturn, The rendezvous point agreed upon with Earth authorities. Far enough from populated areas to be safe, close enough to home to remind them what they fought for. Admiral Kane's face appeared on a conventional communication display, the one concession to normal technology they'd maintained. "Captain Chen, this is Admiral Kane. We've brought your volunteers as requested." "Thank you, Admiral. Begin transport when ready." "Before we do," Kane replied, her expression grim, "I need your personal assurance that this process is reversible. The Confederation Council is demanding oversight, threatening military action if we proceed." Chen exchanged glances with Volkov. "It's not reversible, Admiral, but it is controllable. The human mind was designed for this. We've evolved for millions of years toward this very purpose." "That's not reassuring," Kane said. "I've got 1,000 of Earth's best and brightest ready to volunteer for something they barely understand, with consequences none of us can predict. Would you prefer the alternative?" Chen gestured, and the display shifted to show the void's expansion. "This is accelerating exponentially. At current rates, it reaches Earth in 17 days. A new figure stepped into view beside Admiral Kane, Commander Korlak, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied Chen. "The Watchers believed humanity was the answer," he said. "But there's something you haven't told us, isn't there, Captain?" Chen's expression remained neutral. "The integration will awaken abilities in humans that no species has possessed since the Cedars themselves. The power to perceive and manipulate dimensional barriers, to create and destroy connections between realities." "You're talking about godlike powers," Kane said quietly. "I'm talking about the next step in human evolution," Chen corrected. "The step the Cedars planned for us millions of years ago. And the Confederation fears this," Sorlak added, "because an awakened humanity would render their technological advantages meaningless." Chen nodded. "Which is why they restricted knowledge of Earth's true heritage. Why they've kept all the seeded species separated by restricted zones. They fear what we might become." Kane's jaw tightened. "So this integration, it's not just about fighting the void. It's about claiming humanity's birthright. It's about survival," Chen insisted. "The void consumes consciousness itself. Technology cannot defeat it. Only minds that can perceive and affect the dimensional boundaries it exploits can hope to contain it again." A tense silence followed. "Begin transport," Kane finally ordered. "But I'm coming aboard your vessel, Captain. If humanity is about to transform, I want to witness it firsthand." 6 hours later, Admiral Kane stood in what the Pathfinder crew called the integration chamber, a vast spherical space where the 1,000 volunteers waited. The architecture defied conventional physics, angles connecting in ways that shouldn't be possible, surfaces that seemed solid from one perspective and transparent from another. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Eliza Kapper, Earth's leading xenobiologist, who had insisted on being among the volunteers. "Like standing inside a thought." "The chamber exists partially outside normal spacetime," explained Volkov, who had accompanied them. "It allows safer transition between states of being." "And what exactly will happen to them?" Kane asked, watching as the volunteers were positioned in concentric circles throughout the chamber. "The Watcher consciousness will interface with their minds, activating dormant neural pathways coded into human DNA by the Cedars. Those pathways allow perception and manipulation of dimensional boundaries." "And the risks?" Volkov's altered eyes, geometric patterns shifting where irises should be, met hers directly. 30% of my original crew died during integration. Their minds couldn't reconcile the new perceptions with existing reality frameworks." Kane swallowed hard. 300 people. Possibly more, possibly less. The genetic screening should improve the odds, but we can't be certain. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Admiral, there is no safe path forward. The void comes whether we act or not." Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Dimensional rupture detected," Chen's voice announced over the communication system. "The void has found us. The view outside the ship shifted as space itself seemed to fold inward, revealing a darkness deeper than the absence of light, the absence of existence itself. Tendrils of nothingness reached toward the hybrid vessel and the Earth fleet beyond. "It's happening too fast," Volkov muttered. "We're not ready." "We're out of time," Kane replied, making a decision. "Begin the integration. Now." Volkov nodded grimly and gestured. The chamber hummed with energy as the Watcher technology activated. Streams of light, or something that resembled light, but moved with purpose and intelligence, flowed from the walls toward the volunteers. As the first streams made contact, the recipients gasped in unison. Some fell to their knees, others looked around in wonder, seeing beyond the visible spectrum for the first time. A few screamed, their minds unable to process the sudden expansion of perception. Kane watched in horror and fascination as the transformation spread through the chamber. Dr. Capper stood nearby, her eyes widening as the light touched her. "I can see it," she whispered. "I can see everything." The ship shuddered violently as the void's tendrils made contact with its shields. "Admiral, we need to get you to safety," Sorlak insisted, appearing at her side. "No," Kane replied firmly. "I stay with my people." Through the ship's sensors, they watched as the void expanded, consuming two of the Earth vessels in horrifying silence. No explosion, no debris. They simply ceased to exist, along with everyone aboard. In the integration chamber, something was changing. The volunteers who had successfully integrated, roughly 700 of them, began to move in perfect synchronization. Their eyes glowed with the same inner light as Chen's crew, but with greater intensity. "What are they doing?" Kane asked. "Learning," Volkov answered, "faster than should be possible. The Watcher consciousness contains knowledge accumulated over billions of years." Dr. Capper approached them, her movements fluid and precise. "Admiral, we understand now. The void isn't just an entity. It's an absence, a hole in reality created by the Seeder's experiments with dimensional engineering. Can you stop it?" Kane demanded. "Not stop. Heal." Capper gestured, and a three-dimensional model appeared in the air between them, a complex pattern of energy flows. "The Seeders created us to be the ultimate repair mechanism. When they realized what they had unleashed, they seeded several worlds with species designed to evolve the exact capabilities needed to mend the tear in reality." "Then do it," Kane urged, "before we lose more ships." Capper shook her head. "It's not that simple. The repair requires sacrifice." Understanding dawned on Sorlak's face. The integrated consciousness must enter the void itself. "Yes," Capper confirmed. "A bridge of consciousness spanning the dimensional tear. Once established, we can begin the healing process." "How many?" Kane asked quietly. "All of us," Capper replied. "Everyone who has integrated." A heavy silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the alarms as the void drew closer. "There has to be another way," Kane insisted. Captain Chen joined them, her appearance now more Watcher than human. "There isn't, Admiral. This was always the Seeder's plan, to create beings capable of willingly sacrificing themselves to heal what was broken." "You knew," Kane accused. "You knew this was a suicide mission." "I suspected," Chen admitted. "But it doesn't matter. What matters is that humanity survives, that all life in this galaxy survives." The integrated volunteers had begun forming a complex pattern throughout the chamber, joining hands or standing in precise formations that somehow affected the dimensional fabric around the ship. "We're ready," Capper announced. Kane looked around at the transformed humans, scientists, soldiers, engineers, teachers, all volunteers who had come believing they would be the first of a new evolution of humanity. Instead, they would be the last. "Wait," she said suddenly. "The Seeders wouldn't design a solution that ends with extinction. There must be more to their plan." Volkov's eyes widened as new information flowed through the Watcher network. "There is. The integration, it changes more than just the mind. It affects human reproduction. Any children born to even partially integrated humans will inherit the activated genetic patterns. A genetic legacy, Sorlek realized. Even if you sacrifice yourselves, future generations of humans will carry the awakened abilities. Chen nodded. Humanity's children will be what we glimpsed only briefly, a species capable of perceiving and affecting dimensional reality directly. Guardians against any future tears in the fabric of existence. Admiral, Capper said urgently, we need to act now. The void grows stronger with each consciousness it consumes. Kane looked at the transformed humans before her, then at Sorlek. Tell your Confederation that humanity accepts its destiny, not as weapons, not as tools, but as healers of a broken cosmos, and tell them that Earth expects their protection while we rebuild. Sorlek's skin shifted to a deep, respectful hue. You have my word, Admiral. Your sacrifice will be honored across the galaxy. The integrated humans began to glow more intensely, their bodies becoming vessels of pure energy. It's time, Chen said. Admiral, you need to return to your ship. What happens next isn't for unaltered minds to witness. As Kane was escorted to an escape shuttle, she took one last look at what had once been Captain Maya Chen and her crew, now beings of light and purpose, preparing to sacrifice themselves to save a galaxy that had hidden their true nature from them. Good luck, she whispered. 3 days later, Admiral Kane stood before the combined leadership of Earth and a delegation from the Confederation, including High Counselor Vexalia herself. The void has been contained, she reported. The tear in dimensional space is healing. All integrated humans were lost in the process, but their sacrifice saved billions of lives across the galaxy. And Captain Chen's final message? Asked Earth's president. Kane activated a holographic display, showing the last transmission from the hybrid vessel before it plunged into the heart of the void. Chen's transformed face appeared, serene despite the chaos visible behind her. This is not an ending, but a beginning, she said. What we learned, what we became, it lives on in human DNA, awakened now and ready to be passed to future generations. We return to the cosmos, but part of us remains with humanity. Watch for the children born with stars in their eyes. They are the legacy of the Cedars, the future the galaxy has waited for. The message ended. Silence filled the chamber. Initial medical reports confirm it, Kane continued. Children born to anyone with familial connection to the volunteers, siblings, cousins, parents, are showing signs of enhanced neural activity consistent with dimensional perception. Then humanity will change regardless, Vexalia observed. The abilities will spread through your population over generations. Yes, Kane confirmed, but naturally, gradually, allowing our culture and ethics to evolve alongside our capabilities. The Confederation has concerns, Vexalia began. The Confederation has no choice. Sorlek interrupted, surprising everyone. Humanity just saved us all from a threat we hid from for millennia. They've earned the right to determine their own evolution. Vexalia's crystalline features hardened, but she nodded slowly. The restrictions on Earth space will be lifted. Humanity will be granted full Confederation membership, with all associated privileges. And responsibilities, Kane added. We understand that our future children will have abilities that might frighten other species. We propose a new division within the Confederation. Dimensional Integrity, staffed by both humans and other species, dedicated to monitoring and repairing similar breaches should they occur. Guardians, Sorlek said, his skin shifting to an approving hue. As the Cedars intended. As the meeting concluded and new accords were drafted, Admiral Kane stood at the window overlooking Earth, blue, beautiful, and blissfully unaware of how close it had come to annihilation. Somewhere down there, the first children of humanity's new era were being born, carrying within them the legacy of Captain Chen and her crew. They'll need guidance, Sorlek said, joining her at the window. They'll have it, Kane replied. And they'll have something the Cedars never anticipated. What's that? Kane smiled faintly. The stubborn, irrational, beautiful human belief that there's always another way. That sacrifice should be chosen, never inevitable. That's what saved us in the end, not the abilities the Cedars gave us, but the humanity they couldn't design. Hatzorlak considered this, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Perhaps that's why your species succeeded where the others failed. Not because you were better designed, but because you became something even the Cedars couldn't predict. Human, Kane said simply. And somewhere in the vastness of space, in the healing wound between dimensions, the consciousness that had once been Captain Maya Chen and her crew spread through the cosmos. Not ended, but transformed, watching over the species they had died to protect, waiting for the children with stars in their eyes to join them among the infinite possibilities of existence.